The story we covered early last week on Arise News, one of the first to break it out, has been confirmed by Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. The governor took to his Twitter account to announce that he's excited to get the first set of electric buses in the Lagos Mass Transit Master Plan as part of an increased effort to modernize the sector of Lagos, and he thanked his partnership with Owando Clean Energy. Said Lagosians can expect a cleaner and greener public transport system. Now, of course, Twitter being Twitter, there was some pushback on the cost of the buses and how traffic would impact the batteries. Here's a tweet from James Agada saying, each bus costs circa 200 million naira. Even at 50% margin, the bus will run for at least 12 years before recovering the procurement costs. Shiny new toys don't always make economic sense. We did a bit of digging to confirm the price of those buses, and it actually did come out correct. The Yutong ZK612-8BVG 2019 model is about $378,000 there. That's a 2019 model, and it does come to about a little over 200 million naira using the parallel market exchange rate. Jubril Gawat, who's a special assistant to the governor on new media, did jump in to add clarity, saying he doesn't want people to misconstrue the first response. It's a pilot scheme. Full charge can last beyond what an average BRT does in a day. It has no radiator engine. It will be added to the existing BRT fleet. Once again, it's a pilot scheme. But he got pushed back as well. It's a tweet from Kachiz saying, do we have that tweet? Well, he got some pushback saying that measuring, so if we take a look at the next tweets, he also got some pushback with respect to the amount of the distance that the buses can go being impacted, of course, by traffic, which of course would impact the duration at which those buses can move. All right, yeah, there it is. Calculation of the regular BRT covers all that too. So it's the same, and that it doesn't. Gasoline engines is different from EV. A full tank of diesel in such a bus can comfortably do 200 kilometers with holdups in Lagos, while a full charge EV will require a recharge. Lots of debate there. According to the Nation newspaper, let's talk about electricity now. SouthWest states in Nigeria are looking into launching regional railways and electricity projects. The decision came on the heels of the Electricity and Railway Act 2023, signed by President Buhari. The new laws decentralize the operation of power and rail, among others. The items were on the exclusive list for decades, factors which experts have consistently described as a cog in the wheel of progress in the two sectors. Joining us to discuss further from our Abuja studios is Arise News Analyst Dr. Sam Amadi. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with the Southwest states, and is this the logical outcome of what the president signed into law?
Well, thank you very much. The last time we spoke here, I argued that maybe a regional grid is more sensible in the present context than states having their own grids. I mean, I can't visualize 36 grids in Nigeria. Many of the states not viable. So yeah, a regional grid makes some sense in the sense that, look, it has scale to do with attract financing, scale to operate. So you can't just have one transmission line, for example, in Lagos and the next one in Ogun State and add that. No, it doesn't really add up because the capital cost needs some scale and quantity in terms of customer and quantity of power to transmit to make economic sense. Again, by nature of electricity, there are some, depending on whether, except that we're using the solar and the newest technologies that are modular, but if you're going to do anything like grid-based power, a diesel, gas, or dam, or hydro, or whatever, you need scale. Now, the real problem you're going to encounter right now is what do you do with the existing grid? So part of it's like we are back to 2005 when we started the unbundling, converted NEPA to power holding company, split the distribution and generation and distribution and transmission, and then you needed to account for staff. So for example, if the Southwest decides to have a grid, are they going to lay a new grid which will be economically, that doesn't make sense, or they're going to inherit the existing grid and it becomes known as Western Nigeria grid, for example, in which case we can do some administrative processes and get the staff on, back to the new company. So I think that what will work best is that the federal government somehow begin to divest from the national grid, allow Southwest, Northeast, or anybody who can create their own grid, to take the existing network, reinforce them, improve them, do some work around staff rationalization so that you inherit the existing grid and improve it, and it is loped together as a Western grid. It's doable. It has the capacity, the market to thrive if done well. But you've got to deal with the bureaucratic issues, the regulatory issues, and not just construct in a totally separate grid. Some of the states in the Southwest may not have the capacity, but then it could be that Lagos could subsidize the rest of the Southwest states because it's got the commercial ability to take in power and, of course, to finance it. And the investors are coming in, they're probably looking at the market in Lagos and some bit of Ogun State and Oyo, Ibadan, maybe, but the rest may not be able to. So there will be some cross subsidies happening here. You need political will, you need some degree of coherence in the structure, but it's doable, and maybe it's actually the way of the future for Nigeria.
For the electricity portion, can you still have healthy competition if the regions are coming together to leverage on each other for connectivity?
Yeah, you do. I mean, what that means is that you're going to have state-based discos. The Western region will be one transmission network, and there may be a similar protocol. It could be like the case of EU integration, where you're creating economic integration. So there will be already the significant integration in the Southwest Nigeria. Omotoko is probably what they're building from. So you're going to have maybe 1 or 2, 3 discos. Already Lagos has 2 distribution companies. That could be enough. Maybe you have the Ibadan disco will now probably serve or your state, and then you may have 1 or 2 others. And then what happened therefore is that these suppliers now will be struggling, competing among themselves for improvement of service, cost reduction at the distribution level and retail level. But you're going to have one standard transmission, and then the use of transmission charges for different places will be probably based on density of customer, based load they're going to carry, and other cost incidents. So you're going to still have competition at the level, perhaps, of retail, depending, again, big factor. If you have enough power, it can't retail. Even Nigeria as a country, we don't have competition in the distribution side of the market because we have limited suppliers, limited distributors, and limited power. The real unlocker of competition is you have enough quantity, multiple sellers, multiple buyers. So people can migrate from one buyer to another, and then that incentivizes suppliers to improve service, reduce costs, and improve service. So the competition side of it will be based on whether we can deregulate retail. Even in the Southwest, if you're going to have Southwest as an enclave, you still need to deregulate retail, and that requires having enough supply, enough sellers, enough buyers, so that there can be competition. But what this guarantee is that you might have a much more reliable grid, because the states in the Southwest could make investment, take more market-oriented measures to improve delivery, and because it's really a better served network. It has Lagos and the Ikeja alone creates advantage for those in the Southwest. It means that you can easily ramp up efficiency, and you won't have the kind of transmission losses that we have with a very large Nigerian geography with unlooped lines that fail at different points. So here you're going to have a smaller, well-managed network which will further improve quality of service in the Southwest region of Nigeria.
All right, sounds very encouraging. Let's talk rail. How beneficial would a regional rail system be for the states?
I think it follows like power, even though it has different economics. But the key thing will be the interconnection with the rest of the country. I mean, you would have, there will be not much economic sense. You're going to have a rail line, a strong rail transport within the Southwest zone, and it's not linked out. And so the argument is that with the ADB road infrastructure building out to the West African region, so you're going to have the rails, so then you move goods from here to Cotonou, to Ghana, to Togo, and to the southeast and to the northeast. So it will work as well, but the economics here is that road transport requires outlets. It has to spur into other regions to be economically viable and sensible. So you have good rails in Southwest. The intra-regional trade, I mean, in the context of Southwest, is not what will boost the Southwest economy. It's the inter-regional, but intra-regional, how Southwest would engage with this Northeast, Southeast, South, and so the rail system will be much more economically viable if also there is stronger, connection to especially the West African coast, the West African region, as well as with other Nigeria region. So the secret of the economic value will be that other parts of Nigeria are also improving, at least at the level of interconnection between the Southwest and those regions, so that goods can move within the Southwest, also move from Southwest to West African coast, and of course to the other regions in Nigeria.
All right, excellent point. Yeah, it's got to be wider than the region. I want to revisit the electric buses. We talked about this for the first time with you last week. You were positive about it. What do you make of the pushback on the cost of the buses, and also the fact that gridlock could impact their duration of travel?
Well, I think there are 2 points here. One is the due process, the value for money, and the other is the feasibility. I mean, the problem with technology, new technologies, is that oftentimes they are oversold, and we saw that when we're doing the so-called e-government, the Connected Republic, Cisco and others came up, and many countries in developing part of the world bought into this, spent so much money, but discovered that there are other underlying inefficiencies that make the value less. It becomes a scandal worldwide. So e-government failed largely because it didn't have the infrastructure, it didn't have the software, the people, the culture, the technology, learning to drive it. Now, again, so you see also that sellers, it's a supply side push. People who are doing electric cars will oversell it. So what we are seeing from the pushback is to look at the cost element, to say, look, you are paying more than you ought to pay, and the value you are getting in terms of maybe ease of business and speed of movement, mobility, might not be as much. So if they're too expensive, the question is, how do we procure them? Are there alternatives that electronic vehicles that will make them cheaper? The second issue here is whether the efficiencies we are buying is better relatively than what we have. So the notion, I mean, even if you have electronic vehicles, you're not going to deal with, they're going to suffer the same problem with delays that we see if we're going to have traffic grids. So I think what this calls for is more due process. It means that, and that's the reason why procurements of this nature should be competitive and public. Because what that does is that people take their calculators and begin to do the mathematics, and then the government will know that maybe this is not cost efficient, even in the financial cost, and not cost efficient in the social cost dimension. Yes, we're dealing with savings in terms of carbon footprint, pollution, new energies, maybe new jobs that will be created, but as against what? What is the counterfactual? As against what? And that's what this pushback tells us. And that's the best way to run public procurement. It has to be competitive, it has to be open, so that people will come with better science and maybe second guess the process. And then maybe you will now know maybe if there are alternatives, or should we look for, or should we wait, or should we deal with some problems before we can optimize the efficiencies of the e-vehicle. So this is good debate, good pushback, and it calls to question the level of rigor and due process that government conducts. My own experience is that oftentimes suppliers push too far with their agents, what we call special interests. Government falls for it, and then later we discover that this project is probably a white elephant. This project didn't benefit from due process, and there are other incidental costs that we didn't factor in, which will make the project not even cost efficient in the first place.
Very, very interesting. Second time this week we're talking about this. Dr. Sam Amadi from our Abuja studios, Arise News analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.